And we had a meeting and we formed a committee. And we set out on the job to do a house-to-house canvass. The first house we done was Liberty House.
Did the four of you all go together?
Well, the four of us went together for the first 3 nights. From that we split up until we met an old man in the last house, the first house we done on the fortnight. And he was a member of Mulver Street Sadality some 21 years back. And he had left us over some grievance he had with clergy. He fell out with them and he refused to go to church. So I persuaded him that I had me grievance with the clergy as well as he had. And I persuaded him so hard and convincingly that he decided to come and join the Man Sadality. He joined us and it was the talk of the neighbourhood. In a couple of days elapsed, his daughter came shouting and looking for me to know if I could do that for our father. Why could I not do it for our husband, who was 14 and a half years they were married and he never went to church, chapel or meeting. So we persuaded our husbands. We called to him and paid him a couple of visits and we got him. And we got him so far that he went to confession and he received Holy Communion and he joined the Sadality. From that, I do not know whether he's still in it or not, because he wasn't in my guild. So it gave us the greatest of confidence to carry on the work that we set out to do. And we went from that to house without fear. And we finally winded up in corporation buildings where all the toughs and roughs come from. And at the present day, we stand with 3 guilds from that buildings, which is a huge number of men, because they were all very hard.
3 guilds. How many men would that be? About 70?
We roughly have about 74, 75. Yeah.
And that was
3 guilds.
That's more than the whole Sadality in the beginning.
That's more than the whole Sadality when we started out.
Who was your biggest helper, would you think, now?
Well, Mr. Cummins and Mr. Darcy. Darcy lived in the locality, and Mr. Cummins was a wonderful help.
Mr. Cummins had plenty of good stories to tell about how he rounded up some of the stray sheep.
I was in the pub last week and I one particular man, and I approached him and I asked him to come in with us into Sadality. And then he told me that he would. He'd have a 10 years waiting confession, and the whole bogey, the whole thing, he didn't know how to tell his confession. Because I asked him outside to the toilet, and I helped him in that way, and I had to tell him how.
You actually showed him how to
confession, and to be able to make his confession.
And he went then after that?
Oh, of course he went. Right till that Saturday night, I had an appointment with him, and I was outside the church for about a half hour, and I was talking in his house, and I passed half hour and he didn't come. I was talking to him because early that morning, and he told me that he was there, but he was in the Sadality.
And is he still in the Sadality?
Oh, because he's in the still, yes. After all the years away, he come back and thank that he's here still.
And I suppose he brought in some more with him too, hard roots like himself.
Passed on the route, like, you know, then from there on they call me Father Cummins. And he also called that Mr. Corby. Now they don't call Mr. Corby, they call it Father Corby.
But when they see you coming into the pubs now, do they think you're coming to get fellas into the Sadality?
Oh, they come, they run, they hide, they knock, they done everything, the Dodgers. It's all the same, they gave their name in the pub, but anyway, we kept after me.
Door-to-door canvassing among the houses and the flats was done by Mr. Darcy. There were times when he met with a rather chilly reception. I wondered if he'd ever actually been thrown out of a house.
No, we weren't. No, we weren't actually thrown out, but on one occasion we had the doors just slammed in our face.
Yes.
But in that case we just passed it off and went to the next door and knocked. And if the woman came out, we just asked for the boss of the house. Our boys were 14 as well. Well, if he wasn't there and she said he wasn't there, and we'd know well he was there, we just pass again and we come back again some other time to him.
Yes. If he was there and you did get him, what was your approach then?
I'd say would you like to give us a trial? Well, I'm camping, I'm camping for Our Lady of Lourdes Church.
Yes.
For the Sadality. I say, would you like to give us a trial by coming down on next Thursday night? And that was, we robbed cameras a week before the meeting at night, you know.
Yes.
And we say, well, would you like to come down and give us a trial? He'd say, well, I'll think it over, someone used to say. I say, can't you come down now on Thursday night and give us one trial anyway? And if he came down well and good, it was all right. Well, then if he missed it, we go after him again. We call up the house again. I say, you weren't there last Thursday night after we asked you to come. Would you come down again?
Yes.
Then we came, it was all right. We put him in a gill.
Yes.
And fix him up.
Do you always have the same man with you on your rounds?
No. Sometimes we had Brendan this occasion, I was telling you about before, we had Brendan McCabe.
Yeah, who's he now?
He's a young lad who's in the Sadality. He persuades all the young teenagers to come.
The youngest of the 7 canvassers was Brendan McCabe, who was only 16 and still at school when he volunteered to help. I asked him if he felt in any way nervous.
I did at the beginning. I was doing Foley Street. It's a very tough quarter. But after the first few houses, I was brought in, sat down, over a cigarette. We talked about Sadality in the new church, and we got flocks of men into the Sadality.
And do you think you'll keep it up now? Will you keep canvassing?
Well, I will. After September, we will keep canvassing about 3 nights a week. Personally, I'll only be able to do it 1 or 2 nights, but, well, the men are very anxious to start again.
Well, do you feel satisfied with what you've achieved so far?
I feel satisfied because looking at the great crowd in the new church and thinking on the old crowd, I think it's thrilling, really is thrilling.
The local football leagues were a favourite hunting ground for the Sadality canvassers. In fact, it was Larry Corbally and the other Sadality men who were largely responsible for the running of the leagues. The matches were played on a tarred surface, and they often drew an audience of 300 or 400 men. They were too good an opportunity to be missed.
Well, anybody that we didn't see to get in the houses, we got them here at the football matches with the gathering of men, and we asked them would they like to join, so they said yes.
Well, these would be the players or the spectators?
The spectators, fella.
Yeah.
Any man wouldn't be in his house during the nights, well, we got him here generally.
Yeah. And if I were used to approach him, would you just come up, supposing I was looking at a match here now at the Crowded Palace and I wasn't in the Sadality, would you come up to me and say to me, will you join the Sadality in front of the other fellas, or what would you do?
I'd come up and I'd ask you, were you in a Sadality? And you say no, well then I'd ask you, would you join? And you'd probably say yes, and then I'd say, well, the Sadality is a great thing to be in. And I'd tell you that it reminds you of the Blessed Sacrament every month and confession every month.
As the Sadality drive got underway, even the pubs, the last refuge of persecuted mankind, were no longer safe. Many a hardened drinker got a rude shock when he found himself standing at the counter beside a man that everyone calls Boxer.
I had made an appointment with another man, and he made the appointment with me on a Tuesday night, which was a very bad night for me having no money. But anyway, I kept the appointment, I turned up and I had 3 cigarettes and I hadn't got the price of 1 pint. Walks into the pub and television was on, and another lad that always has a few bob, and of course he didn't say, Boxer, will you have a pint? But anyway, I went down to a match after that and the man didn't turn up. I went home. Well, I wasn't in despair. I says I'd catch him some other time. On the following Saturday night, I went up to the pub, and when I walked in, my old friend says, here's Boxer. So over it goes, and it says, Terry, I know, he says, I let you down, definitely. He says, have a look at me eye. I says, don't worry about your eye, I says. Anyway, I says, you let me down very badly. He says, how about confession tonight? He says, I says, looking at the clock, says, now, it's exactly 11:20. I'll go down with you. Well, he thought he was kidding me, but he wasn't. I knew what I had in mind. We came outside the pub anyway and chat for about 10 minutes. Down we go. I rang the bell, and who comes down? Only your Reverend Father Sullivan. Half asleep, only had to get out of bed, robes and all on him. He thought it was a beggar coming to the door. So, Father, would you do a job for me? He says, no, better man. In he goes. I was waiting outside, had a few smokes. Out comes Terry. And his pal was with him, but his pal didn't have to go to confession. But Terry came out. I will always go to confession again, he says. Always go to that man again. Well then, after that, I was quite happy. I went home and said a few prayers. And coming into the flats where I live, I meet a famous drunkard. Oh, me bound man Charlie, says I. Are you in Sadality? Not at all, he says. I'd love to join Sadality. Well now, says I'm making a promise with you now. I says, there's a pair of rosary beads. And I says, when I call for you, I says, have the rosary beads for me and be prepared, because I say, I'm doing a job. And I definitely will do that job for that man.
I'm standing on the rubble and the masonry, the old broken down window frames of the old church, the old tin church of Gloucester Street. And behind me rises the new fine red brick church from which the new spirit of this parish has arisen. We've heard the story of the Sadality of Gloucester Street. We've heard the story of those 7 dedicated men who built it up. who brought it from a paltry 100 men up to the 1,100 or 1,000 which it is now. But is this just the story of a 9 days wonder? Will it last? There are many people today who believe that sodalities are a thing of the past, that with television in everybody's house, radio and cinema so easily accessible, people aren't interested anymore in sodalities and won't come regularly. When the red bricks begin to dry out, when the gutters rust in the new church and the paint wears thin, will the men still come in the same numbers to the sodality as they have done in the last couple of months? Time alone will answer that question. Good night.